Cork won very handily against Waterford today, and I suppose one of the things that had to please John Myler is the fact that they created 51 chances over the course of the game and took 32 of them. Bill Cooper's back in the team, and it's been pretty much night and day. He had to withdraw against Tipperary during the warm-up. Cork didn't function. He comes back for the Limerick game. He's back again today. Lo and behold, sets up one of the goals, just runs the show throughout. And for a guy who's fairly uncelebrated in the sense that he's not a flashy hurler, he just really is crucial to them. The full back issues are still there. If Cork want to, when I say that, obviously Owen Cadigan's had a really good season, very, very impressive against Limerick, who are the All-Ireland champions at the moment. So he'd say from that point of view, they have got enough in the full back line. But when he's moved out of the full back spot, like Aaron Gillan is pretty much doing the same thing all the time. Left side of the 14, ball popped in front of him or a high ball on top of him. Cork planned for that. Not every team is going to do that, and maybe Limerick will even change that the next day as well, whenever they play Cork again. But Cadigan, when he was moved away from the square and then someone else was back there minding the 6-yard box in the penalty area, that's where I think Cork struggled, and that's the thing in the future. Other teams will look to pull Cadigan out of the square, and then what are Cork going to do? So that might be the thing that cost them. They're looking for a Munster 3 in a row, the first time since the 80s. And like their responses to the goals that Waterford got would tell you a lot about them, that they have resilience. They scored 5 points in a row after the first goal. Second goal, they scored 6 in the next 7. So obviously they're a fairly serious team. Do they have the best array of forwards in Ireland? Tipperary would make a fair claim for it, but like with Alan Cadigan, Lahan coming on, Horgan, Luke Mead and Daniel Carney even working out the field, they've just got options everywhere. So really, really, really strong attack. And to be fair, I think other teams might have struggled to put up a score like that against a team that had nothing to play for and a team that put out what many people would have considered a weakened team. For Waterford, Pádraig Fanning needed something to sort of say to the Waterford public, I deserve a chance at a second year. Derek McGrath got a chance after a second year after having a difficult first season. I've had my difficult first season, and there's going to be improvements coming down the line. At the same time, they conceded 230, and their scoring difference is minus 52 after 4 games, which is, it's really, really dreadful. But the fact that he got this young team to come out with a bit of energy perhaps inspired them, you know what I mean? There was kind of descriptions to the contrary throughout the week. Like the Bennetts were on fire. This is the first time that we saw both Bennetts really on top of the team. And if they got even more ball into them, God knows what else they would have done. And there were more goal opportunities for them as well. So Waterford could have been even closer. But as I said, they conceded 51 scoring chances and they only created 29 themselves. Only 10 chances in the second half, and Cork had 3 times as many. So they were a beaten docket again as the second half went on, just like against Tip, just like against Limerick. I mean, Clare is the one bright spot if you want to consider that flat enough performance a bright spot. They did have Tyke Burke playing a sweeper. He got on a nice bit of ball, but what worried me as the game went on is that because they were outnumbered at the other end of the field and Cork were working the ball out nicely, their forwards weren't able to put enough pressure on the Cork backs, and essentially the likes of Coleman and whoever else, Ellis, they were able to saunter up the field and find a space to pop the ball into. And Tyke Burke can't run 100 yards in 5 seconds. Nobody can. So if you're playing as a sweeper and the ball is coming in quick and put into space, you might as well not be there. You'll just be doing shuttle runs for no reason. At least the team got more scores in the first half than they did in the entire game against Limerick, and but that's no win in 2 years now, so that's pretty demoralising. But at least the likes of Jamie Barron, he came back and gave a performance again, because we just haven't seen the star men do it for them this year. Austin Gleeson came on, disappointing enough cameo, and you'd hope that his response inside would be, I'm gonna come back next year as good as I was in 2017. Wexford are through. They're actually, they're not true, but they beat Carlow, and Wexford now, they're unbeaten so far in Leinster. They've to play Kilkenny yet, but unless Dublin draw Waterford, that means that they're at least through to the All-Ireland series. Carlow were relegated, beaten by a nice score for a finish 15 points. Not disgraced, better score difference than Waterford, but that's 10 games competitively all year, 1 win. And I suppose saying you haven't disgraced yourself it's kind of like, it's not exactly the greatest compliment in the world. They're going back to the Joe McDonough, and I have said before, maybe it would be a nice idea if Leinster was 6 teams, give them a chance to get used to playing at this level, and seeing if they can hang with the likes of Kilkenny, the likes of Wexford, Dublin, Galway, if they got a couple of more seasons at them. But that's the end of the line for them at the moment. Fast Eddie Brennan, he's through to the Joe McDonough final. Laois went down to Kerry, won by 8 points, 517 to 121. And it's the first time that they're going to be going to Croke Park since 2005, which is fairly big. Neil Foyle with his 100th game for Laois as well, been a great servant for them. He scored 1-2, and not only are they going to Croke Park, but it's an All-Ireland preliminary quarter-final for Eddie Brennan and his Laois team in his first season. And we know about the troubles that he had with the Cam Ross players and the Ross King issue, who he got back as well, which is massive for them because he's such a class player. They're more than likely going to meet Westmeath, who lost the Joe McDonough final to Carlow last year. They went up to Antrim and won 29 points to 21. Killian Doyle, we talked before about how they might be overly reliant on him. 17 points again, so he's just having an outrageous season. So depending on how results go, it's still looking fairly likely that Westmeath will get through. There's what for Laois is a dead rubber against Westmeath next week, and Westmeath will fancy getting the points there and just make sure of it, that they're in the Joe McDonough final. Antrim, they went down to 13 men, went down to 14 men last week against Offaly. Got to be disappointed with that, because if you don't keep all your men on the field, you're just giving the opposition pretty much the impetus, and you're going to be fighting an uphill battle for the rest of the game. Neil McManus held scoreless throughout the game as well. I see James McNaughton got 3 points, adding to the 4 that he got when he came on the last day as well. But not the greatest result for Antrim as well, especially at home, after beating Offaly last week. Donegal actually beaten Tyrone today, and not just beating them, but like having a stranglehold over the game from the get-go. You just wonder with Tyrone, did they get to an All-Ireland final last year, which they were quite poor in? They started off well, and then for the rest of the game it wasn't even a contest. Did they think that we're going to train hard over the winter and we're going to make that next step and maybe it'll just happen? And their performance was just so flat. Like Peter Hart got black carded early on for a foot trip. I think like it was a foot trip, whether it was deliberate or not is the rule for a black card. I thought he went in recklessly, and I think David Goff did the right thing. I think he did have to get black carded. They're trying to be a bit more attack minded this year, because you saw there wasn't like the Catenaccio group of sweepers at the back at all times. Anytime Donegal tried to attack, it was a case of Donegal or Tyrone would push up the field, and on the counter there was nothing but space, and the likes of Jamie Brennan went to town. He was absolutely fantastic, and looks like he could be. Like we knew he had talent, but he looks like he could be up there with Paddy McBrearty, and of course they have Michael Murphy as well. So what a forward line potentially. But for Tyrone, they probably wanted to see, can we kick on to that next level and go from man against Dublin. And if Donegal are going to do that to you, and I don't necessarily think Donegal are an All-Ireland challenger at the moment, then what are Dublin going to do to you?